And yes, Sunday is Diwali. It's the start of the Indian New Year, one version of it, where a great story about Lord Rama and the return of the light. And it's interesting that Diwali is the day when the sun and moon are probably both in the lowest dignity, because the sun is debilitated and the moon is very close to being debilitated. This is why, in my opinion, we celebrate Diwali then. Ironically, you would think, why don't we celebrate this light when the sun is really powerful? Well, because we don't need to celebrate it when it's really powerful. We don't need to intentionally remember it. We need to intentionally remember it when it's at its lowest, when it's at its most challenging. That's what we have with this day. We have the sun debilitated and the moon close to being debilitated. So that's why we have Diwali. I'll do an update about Diwali anyway, for those of you who don't know what that is. Very important festival to celebrate the victory of light over darkness. So that's a big theme right now as well, because we're in that phase where we can be very prone to darkness with the sun being debilitated and not being overcome by darkness in our mind and heart is obviously very important. You know, this month when the sun goes through Libra, we have to be ever vigilant to staying optimistic, not allowing the darker parts of our mind and consciousness to dominate. It's easy to be pessimistic. It's easy to only focus on the negative, not look at the positive. To focus excessively on things that are not working. Particularly now we have Venus in Scorpio with Saturn. It's also a time when we might over-accentuate the negative, especially because Venus was just in Libra, where there was a lot of potential connection to beauty and joy, especially like with relationships or romance. We went from a big shift with Venus. Venus was in Libra, then it goes into Scorpio, where we're already stressed and a little paranoid and distorting the negative. That's the problem with Scorpio. The negative quality of Scorpio is we become paranoid about the negative possibility. That's what paranoia is. So we get a little indicator of something that's a problem and we blow it up to the most negative possible conclusion. We project it. We project this possible negativity into the future. That's that's what things like jealousy are. Or when we distort something in a relationship with other people, where we have some little issue with somebody, and then like if someone has planets in Scorpio in their natal chart, they'll just always be conflating things to the most negative possibility. Because you're this imperfect, it's this big of a problem, right? So we're feeling that now in the sky, especially with Saturn, with Venus joined Saturn. It's even more like, okay, so I want to run away. You can see this with personal interactions. Of course, romantic ones and all that stuff. Venus and Scorpio, we tend to be paranoid that we're being mistreated, and then Saturn there, so then we want to block it out, run away, and not want to deal with it. So notice that in your personal interactions. And again, the other big shift was we had the Sun and Mercury in Virgo, where Mercury was exalted and Mercury was, we were quite intelligent. Mercury's now gone into Libra. Still not a bad sign for Mercury, but it's not exalted with Virgo, or it's not exalted in Virgo. We also have the Sun now is debilitated, so a big shift from the Sun being with exalted Mercury to the Sun being debilitated and Mercury being with debilitated Sun. So this is how you look at dignities. It's a big shift. when planets join and then the dignities, even though the sun in Virgo is not, it's not the greatest place, but it's not that bad. But if the sun is in Virgo with exalted Mercury, then the sun is being really guarded and protected by exalted Mercury, just like Jupiter. So when Mercury was in Virgo, it wasn't just good for Mercury, it was good for Jupiter and the sun, because they were both with exalted Mercury, with its exalted ruler. Not only does the sun now become debilitated, but now Mercury is with debilitated sun. Mercury is also on the other side of the sun, so it's very combust, meaning it's on the other side of the sun. Right now. Well, it's very close to exact, yeah, actually it's, as I record this on the 25th, Mercury is, yeah, exactly combust on the other side of the sun, and it tracks like that for several days. Mercury is going to be exactly combust the sun within a couple degrees or so for until like the 30th, for like 4 or 5 days. So in Western astrology, that's called cazimi. When planets are combust, completely opposite on the other side of the sun, there is some strength there. There's some strength and power there. But it's often a frustration that's getting worked on. We're like purging our frustration because the sun like burns things up. So this burning up of our frustrations can be happening now also for the next several days, from the 26th, from the 25th through like the 30th, through the end of the month, because this Mercury's on the other side of the sun. Now, it can also be purifying our ideas as a result. So there's a purification that happens when we burn something, especially when its rays pass through the sun. And so it can make the mind very sharp and very, really noticing the truth of things, but it's it can be an uncomfortable truth, or like a burning quality to it. So again, all of this is quite different than when Mercury was exalted with Jupiter and the sun. So now what happens is Mercury, the sun, and Jupiter are all weaker than they were a week and a half ago, when they were in Virgo with exalted Mercury. So all of that is also at play.